HTML5 a color element. So element in HTML, this input type color element in HTML5 create a color picker widget that allows the users to select a color using a graphical interface, something like this. So in this example, we have a label called color, and then the input type. So this label provide a text label for the color picker, and then input type element with type color attribute. So when the user clicks on the color picker, a color selection widget will appear that allows the users to choose color using a variety of methods, such as selecting a hue from a color wheel, or entering a specific color value. The selected color value is returned as a string in the format of RRGGBB form. In other words, in the red, green, and blue components of the color in a hexadecimal format. The selected value um, the selected value can be accessed using a value attribute of the input element, just like other form element. So that's the nature of the color element. And then there is a the autofocus attribute here. So autofocus actually specifies that the color picker should receive a focus automatically when the page loads, which allows the users to interact with it without having to click on it first. Now here you can say, I have given the name fav color. This actually assigns the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. So that's about the color or input type color element. Date and the time elements. You can use the date and time elements if you want to, or date and time, sorry, input types if you want to create controlled elements for the users to enter date and the time data. So here we have input type date. So this will actually create a kind of a date picker widget, something like this, which allows the user to select the date from the calendar, or even the user can enter the date using a text field. And then I have this name equals to be day. So this assign a name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And then we have the input type time. Now this create a time picker widget that allows the user to select a time using a graphical interface, and then also the name start time. Here assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. I'll actually give you a small example of this. Let me have this basic text or code editor here. So if I can actually create a small HTML form for the date. So I just copy and paste my code. So this is a small form for the date. So if I run this, you can see here in this form I can select a appropriate date using this format. And also if I have a small code for the another form for the time, so if I run like this, you can see the time picker appear something like this. Okay, so I can select the time and then also select the AM or PM. Right, so this is the date and the time. And so I just go to the next one, the email. So input type email. If I want to send a email, if I want a contain or input element for the email, I can use the type email. Now here input type email. So here the type email create an input field that is used to collect email address from the users. So browsers can provide a validation to ensure that the email entered by the user is in a valid format. And then the name equals to contact email. This assigns the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And then we have a placeholder, right? So this provides a kind of a hint for a example text that is displayed in the input field when it is empty. So that is what they mean by the placeholder. And then the required is equal to required. This attribute actually specifies the input field which is required, so meaning that the user must enter value before submitting the form. If the user attempts to submit the form without entering a value, the browser will display an error message, right? So that is a the email. And then we have another input element called a number. So if I want to create the field to collect some numeric values, I can use type number. Now here you can see here I create an input field that used to collect numeric value from the user and use the name score to assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And I have minimum and maximum value. So minimum 0 specify the minimum value that the user can enter in the input field. In this case the minimum value is set to 0, and the max actually specify the maximum value that the user can enter into the input field. In this case the maximum value is set to be 10. And also I have step equals 1. This specifies the increment that is used to increase or decrease the value of the input field. So in this case the increment is set to 1, which means that the user can only enter whole numbers, right? That's what they mean by that. And then the value is equal to 5 specify the default value of the input field. You can see here the default value. In this case the value is set to be 5. And also kind of I can use input type range to create a input field that is used to collect numeric value from the users specified in the range, right? So here I use the name equals rating to assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to server. Again I can set minimum value to 0 here. This is the minimum value that the user can select in the input field, and then the maximum is 10. This is the maximum value the users can select. So the value is equal to 5 means this is the default value in the input field, in this case 5. So you can see this range is sits in the middle, so 0 to 10. So that's the so you can see the users can actually here dragging the slider in the input field, right? And then the selected value is sent to the server when the form is submitted. right? So that's the number, and then the search, right? um, so if I actually want to include a search um, text or search bar, I can use the input type search. So this create a field that used to search some queries. And then also I have name is equal to search query. So this assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And also I have placeholder is equal to search query. This specify the short hint that does describe the expected value of the input field. So in this case the hint is the search query. When the user submit the form, clicking the search button, the form data is sent to the server using HTTP maybe get or get method, probably. Yes, get method is the most appropriate method in this case. And then the server side script can be specified in the action field in the form to process the data, search data. And then here I have another input type URL to create an input field that is used to collect URLs or web addresses from the user, like this. And then also I have the name is equal to website, assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And also I have a placeholder, this domain name .au. This specify the short hint that describe the expected value of the input field. So when the user enters the website URL and submit the form by clicking the submit button, the form data is sent to the web server using HTTP, probably HTTP post method in this case, because we may have um, um, a search query or URL in this case actually. Okay. Right, so the phone numbers, right? So I can use input type tel to create the input field is used to collect telephone numbers from the users, right? And then I have the name is equal to form. This assign the name to the input element, which is used to identify the form data submitted to the server. And I have a placeholder here. Now this specify the short hint that describe the expected value of the input field. In this case, the hint is in this format, which suggests the phone number format, right? And then I have this pattern, right? Now this pattern is called the a regular expression pattern, right? That the entered phone number must match in order to be considered valid. Um, so so it like kind of it basically tells it, the phone number should matches with begins with the 2-digit area code enclosed in the parentheses, followed by the space, and the 4 digits, another 4 digits, and then the hyphen, and then another 4 digits. That's the expected um, uh, uh, phone number format. So data list, right? Now here, if I want to actually include the input field in a text input field that have a drop down kind of a list that users can select, so I can use the input type text, and then actually can give a list of items as inside the data list um, element, right? So here the input type text create an input field that used to collect text input from the user. So I have the name called favorite season or fav season. Again, it assign the name to the input element which used to identify the form data submitted to saver. And then the list equals seasons associate the input element with the data list element which provides a list of predefined options for the user to choose from. I can also use the ID. Then in this case, I use the ID attribute to set the season, which provide the list of options that will be displayed to the user um, um, when they type in the input field. Each option is defined using option tag with the value attribute set to the corresponding season's name. Right, so that's the output looks like when you execute this um, input type control element.